Hi, Joni.
Hey Jess, how's
Hi.
it going?
Good. How are you? We have a special guest today. Hi, Bethany.
Oh, I'm excited to be here.
Bethany is joining us today to talk about inclusive communities and communication and care. So, Bethany, would you give us an introduction?
Sure. I spent around 10 years in the special education world. I have taught all ages except for middle school, and that was a tactic for my just what I wasn't. It wasn't one of my strengths, middle school. So I did avoid middle school. But I've taught high school, preschool, early intervention, elementary, special ed, all abilities. I'm very passionate about inclusion and just special education in general. And now I've moved to an administrative role in schools, but I still think of myself as an advocate for special education. So that's kind of where I'm at professionally. Personally, I'm married. I have 3 girls, one of who adores Avery and misses him dearly. And we have one wild dog. I do coach Special Olympics swimming, and I love CrossFit. So
And a fun fact, you just won an award in CrossFit, right? I just saw it posted. Would you?
yeah, so it's sort of silly. I got member of the month for our CrossFit, and I've tried to do it for 21 months straight, attended classes, and so that was the first time I've won. I was really excited.
That's pretty awesome. Well, let's dig in.
Avery, are you wanting to go to school, buddy?
He loves school.
Is he going there now?
He is. He just started Friday.
Big boy, you're in school again? Lily's gonna be sad you're not with her. I
And
can't wait for y'all to see each other.
I know, I can't wait either. Bethany, I'm curious to know what your definition of inclusion is.
To me, inclusive environments are providing opportunities for all to interact in the same environment as equals. So it might not be the same per se, but there's the same experience for all. And I think that we could provide that in any type of setting, in classrooms, in playgrounds, in community facilities, and it's beneficial for all students. I just think that, I mean, for example, Avery and Lily, they're very different, but he helps her just as much as she helps him. And I think that until people understand that, we aren't doing the special pops a favor by offering inclusion. We are making the world a better place for everyone by offering inclusion. And so that, I hope that's a good explanation. I'll try to think of another example, but I just think that sometimes we think that separate but equal, and that's not what I mean by inclusion. I mean, we
Right.
are all together as one
Yeah.
environment, interacting and celebrating each other's strengths.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting that you say that because there's a lot of discussion around what classrooms our kids should be in, or what types of schools should we be looking at. I know I went through that process looking at preschools for Avery, and then of course when he started school. And I do think all of the kids benefit so much from like having the opportunity for an integrated classroom. I don't know if it's all the time, but I don't know the school systems as well as you do. So, but I know, like you said, from seeing Lily and Avery interact, like, I mean, aside from it just being ridiculously adorable, they are good for each other. And she is so patient with him. And when you see a child that's 4 or 5 years old exercising, patience and empathy, it's incredible. It's
Yeah.
really incredible.
Well, and I will be honest, that is not something that Lily has always been strong in. She has struggled with social emotional development. Just, I mean, not with a diagnosis, just from me knowing early childhood and identifying it. It's just an area of weakness for her. And so just for me as a parent to see that growth in my child as well, it's a mutually beneficial situation.
Mhm.
Lily helping Avery. Avery is helping Lily too. And that's important to recognize. I think our culture just tends to ignore that piece of it.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm curious, as an educator, what are some of the, I'll call them tactics or strategies that you've seen succeed? And I think to some extent I'm curious about maybe not succeed too, that other educators or administrators could leverage, and then us as parents. One of the things I've talked about a number of times, in this setting is we have 5 kids all with the same rare genetic disease that Avery has, and we're like fully immersed and they're spread across elementary, middle school, and high school. We're fully immersed in the trenches with those teachers and supporting them so they can support us and the kids, and frequent touch points or communication points. What are some of the things that you in your experience have been particularly successful and maybe unique that we can add to our toolbox, if you will?
I certainly think recognizing a child's tolerance for school is important. I think traditionally in public education, we expected all children to go to school all day long in whatever setting is best for them. But some children just are not ready for that. And I think that's okay to recognize and that's what the purpose of an IEP is
Right.
for, to cater that and curate that for the child, whatever is best for them. I also think as an early special ed teacher, I was hesitant to push students, I think. And as I was more seasoned, I learned as they master a skill, we've got to move on. And so I would say, as parents, as new special ed teachers, new general education teachers, to recognize when students master skills and push them, because they will rise to the bar we set for them, in my opinion. Another thing that I think is very important, and I've talked with Jessica a little bit about this, is just communication across all areas. So one thing that I've seen as an administrator that I didn't necessarily have the opportunity to as a teacher is to see how influential involving our social worker, our outside speech therapist, our medical provider, our teachers, our admin, everybody needs to be on the same page. And when we work together and we communicate, it really helps our students. I think sometimes we forget to include the medical doctor who sees our student once a month. And so then they don't know what's happening at school, and the parent may not know. So just including everyone at the table. And I always say the parent is the quarterback. Like, we're a team, but the parent's the quarterback. So we've got to listen to their needs and what they want for their child. So those are a few things. I can elaborate if there's anything that really stuck out. You just tell me.
I mean, you mentioned having doctors involved, so that one's like brand new to me. I never even thought of that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I mean, and I'll be honest, I don't even know how I could go about that. Getting hey, can you come to my kid's IEP meeting? How has that something you've seen?
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, your answer what I was asking. Go ahead.
So, who we typically work with would be a case manager.
Okay.
And so it would be someone at the doctor's office or at the facility that we would work with, not necessarily the doctor. But in cases where there aren't case managers, we typically communicate via fax or email with the doctors. I've had several students that I get information from the doctor directly. And I provide information directly, like, hey, I think that this student doesn't seem to be as on task now. Maybe there needs to be a med change, just something to think about. I think that's important to recognize, because at home, it's such a different setting. They're not being asked to sit and do the academic tasks all day. And so I think sometimes when parents report, it may seem okay at home, and it probably is great at home, but it's a different setting. So the doctor would get a clear picture.
I think it's also great to have the doctor involved, because we as parents, who are often the liaison between all the teams, we are relied on to carry all of that information. And you get better at it, I think, over time, if you don't know going into it. I mean, I think I've had a tremendous advantage because Avery came from foster care, and foster care has so many things that are required of a parent or foster parent. So that helped give me a leg up. But for any other parent that's going through this, you're trying to remember all the things on top of taking care of your child and other children if you have other children, and work, if just all the things. So, when we go in to talk to the doctor, there may be more pressing things, or maybe we're not communicating something that the doctor would want to know. And that's a great, great call out.
Yeah.
Well, and I mean, just the intimidation factor when you're at the IEP table,
Yes.
it is intimidating. You've got all of these people asking you all of these questions, and you're trying to juggle and do what's best for your kid. So stuff sometimes does get left out, just unintentionally on either side.
Yeah.
I found a lot of success over the past 2 years specifically with that communication with the med provider or with a case manager for the students.
That's fantastic. I know we've mentioned on previous episodes about a developmental doctor, and for our kids, I think Avery probably still has 20 something upwards to 30 specialists. And we work through one developmental office, and that is the best resource we have, and she is phenomenal.
Yeah.
So even, even with us being in Texas and traveling back to Tennessee for care, because I've shared with everyone that he gets care at Vanderbilt, and we've loved Vanderbilt, and I have in one place for me to go to. But in terms of incorporating that doctor into anything at school or any other activities, she's always up for that. And she does have resources in her office. To be honest, I just never even thought like, oh,
Yeah, me either.
yeah.
I think it's something that schools probably also need to be more open to, because there's been such a divide with medical and education for so long. I mean, educators don't know the medical information. We're not trained in that area, and med providers don't know the educational academic side. So I do think it's important to collaborate and bring everyone to the table to talk, to do what's best for the kiddos.
Yeah.
What about, going back to the inclusion piece a little bit, from an educational setting, because our kids, so there's field trips, right? Public school, there's field trips, and our kids.
Hang on just a second,
Yeah.
Johnny. This little girl just walked in. I'm so sorry,
No
but I
worries.
did want her to say hi.
Oh my goodness. Can you say hi? Do you know who that is?
It's Avery right there.
Can you tell Lily hi? Oh my goodness.
Y'all have to play soon, okay? Okay. Go with your dad. Love you. Sorry, she was like coming in
No
hot.
worries.
She needs to say hi really quick. Go find your daddy. Go get
What
it.
did she do? You
Hey,
don't
sorry.
see her anymore, do you? He's like, where did she go?
Did you see Lily?
She misses you, buddy, as much as you miss her.
So much.
Go ahead.
Sorry.
No, that needed to happen.
Yeah.
I think that was the anticipation that was building before we even started for that reunion. What was I asking? Inclusion and field trips, since you're in that field, obviously. How, in your experience, to what extent I don't know if it's schools or PTAs, because here I think our PTA is involved with planning field trips quite a bit. And in my personal experience, some of the field trips and such, and events even that they plan, are kind of hit or miss in terms of on the inclusion scale. I'll say anything from some sort of event or activity that maybe doesn't factor in or take into account kids who may have sensory challenges, to field trips. Like there was a field trip, I think it was a year or so ago, where they went to an ice skating rink. Yeah, and some of our boys have some balance and motor issues, and there's a friend of theirs in their class has very, very limited sight, so he didn't participate at all, as an example.
Right.
Just, I don't really even know what I'm asking, but it's just like we've had challenges in that area. I think.
Like the appropriateness of the field trip for different populations.
Mm-hmm.
My thinking is, when we have field trips, they should always be linked back to standards. Just from the admin side of things, and so every child should be able to access those field trips in a meaningful way. And so if every student is not able to access those field trips in a meaningful way, it probably needs to be a different field trip.
Right.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, totally agree and totally valid. I guess I just need to figure out who plans these things a little bit more and get engaged in that process.
Maybe some more thoughtfulness behind what, like, where we're going kind of thing.
So I think you said PTA plans some of those things. So, how do we as parents of kids with special needs, how can we present ideas so that we're not coming across as like trying to get the schools to make an exception, but to actually create and, facilitate inclusion. Because I think sometimes it's like we do advocate for our kids, and we do. I don't want to say demand a lot. Demand is not the right word, but
you have to advocate for your kids. That's your job as a parent. Sorry, this one is.
You're fine. But it comes from a place of like we're also trying to give them the most typical childhood experience that we can.
Sure.
And sometimes I think that doesn't always come across as like that's the place that it comes from. And maybe for some parents that's not the place that it's coming from.
Right. Y'all seem like very laid back parents and parents from a principal kind of view, like an administrative point of view.
I'm on my best behavior. That's what.
Oh,
So what are some of the ways that we as parents, or ways that parents have come to you and presented ideas? Like, what's the best way for us to do that?
I think just like communication up front is what's best from my perspective. Generally, if like you let the teachers know, I mean, at our school at least, I'm not speaking, I know that people have different struggles with different places, but if we know ahead of time, we know the limitations, then we can find field trips that can include everyone, because now there are so many different opportunities. We can incorporate field trips in various ways. And so I just think it would be, a way to bypass a struggle, to know up front what your student might need. I think I have had parents just like print out like what my student loves, what they don't love. And y'all probably do things like this. I don't know. But like just about my child. And I love getting that, because then we know up front what to expect, what those struggles might be, and what the student really loves, and we can work with that.
Yeah, but I don't know if you can talk about this. I'm hoping you can. Your project on the adaptive playground.
So at first, I approached our city about doing it, about creating an adaptive playground, and they actually already had sort of a plan in place, but they were waiting on the politics part of it for it to come, I guess, become a priority. So I've kind of paused that because we found a grant through, or really my boss did a lot of this, but TDEC, I think is what it's called. It's the Environmental Council of Tennessee, and they will do pourable rubber, and there's some stipulations, but we're going to work with it and try to get it at our school. And so I'm super excited because the community will still have access to it. Like all of the community uses our school playgrounds.
Yes.
And so
Yes,
I'm really hoping it comes out. I think that our community desperately needs a place that's an inclusive, accessible playground for everybody.
Agreed. And I've seen this, so you can share a little bit. I think this is really important because when we're considering places to go or where our kids belong, or even just things that are safe or unsafe, it really boils down to safety at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
I know what community you're talking about. I know what school you're talking about. I know it's a community, as in like a city playground. And I grew up around there, so I remember playing. But I think I've traveled and I've seen other places, and I've seen like, boards with sign language, or, and then of course like visual representation of activities or games, or, so that there are, for kids like Avery and Johnny's boys who don't speak, and they're probably not going to carry a device on the playground with them. Like they get broken enough just in their everyday environment. Even to have like those kind of resources available to our kids, it sets the precedent that it is an inclusive place, and it is designed with all kids in mind or all people in mind.
Yeah, on one thing that I wrote for something recently, I can't remember what it was for, but I said there's a misconception that inclusive playgrounds are only for students with disabilities, but everyone can access that equipment. So it
Yeah.
benefits all children, and it levels the playing field, like we talked about at the beginning, where everyone can be included in the same environment and interact. It just sets us up to build quality relationships as a whole.
Yes. Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, I mean, and the so there's a park here in the Austin area called the All Abilities Park, which I think might be what you were,
Yes.
when you said you can talk about this, were referring to. And I mean, it's phenomenal. I mean, even as some, I mean, it's got sensory areas with like outdoor sound bars and drums that kids can, bang on, and all sorts of stuff. And, all the swings, including a zip line area, are set up so that there's a safety chair that you can harness a kid in, swings that are actually platforms so you can roll a wheelchair into them, those sorts of things. But I mean, back to what you just mentioned about they can benefit all kids of all abilities. The park itself I mean, it's huge, but it's entirely fenced in, and the single entrance and exit has this kind of double. You open a gate, come in, you open another gate, and the gates are really heavy and hard to open, so that you as a parent, even if you don't have a child with special needs or that has elopement issues, can be reasonably certain that once your kid's in there, they're not going to escape without you knowing about it. Just something as simple as that, because as parents, we need a break occasionally, right? And
Sure.
going to a park isn't necessarily a break, but going to an area where we know, okay, our child's not going to escape and start wandering through traffic or whatever,
Yeah.
um, is just a win all around. Special needs or not, I think.
And one thing that I'm working on for this summer, I just actually talked to our Parks and Rec director, just speaking on having a break. I mean, I think every parent, despite your child's ability, needs a
Right.
moment every now and then, but especially parents who have children with disabilities. I'm working on getting swimming lessons for children with disabilities here. I coached swimming and lifeguarded, and so I actually talked to our director at our aquatic center, and I'm hoping we can offer those this summer for free for families.
Wow.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I mean, as a parent, that's one of the biggest fears, your children being around water. And then imagine your child being around water and they can't speak. And so I just think it will be a great thing for our community, and I really hope it works out.
We'll send all the positive vibes for that. I guess I can't really say that one of the reasons we moved somewhere else is like lack of resources, but it is to some extent. And then trying to stay on top of his care and his needs and in addition, do this kind of work. Like, obviously, this podcast is our way of trying to do some of the work that you're actually doing, because it's hard. It was very difficult for me to advocate and want to be involved and want to get things started up. And then also, I have him and I have a job. And so, the conversation we're having is a way that I'm hoping to contribute to that. And should we decide to move back, or we find ourselves there, like, it's really exciting to think that that could be an option for him in the future and for his peers and the other kids in town. Like, it is such a huge step forward in just changing the narrative in a community.
Well, I think like Johnny said earlier, like thinking about field trips, like being thoughtful in what we're doing. Like when I thought, how many students here in this community cannot swim? Multiply it by 100 and there you have Austin, So it's just something that I hope will take a little bit off of the parents in this community. Just take a little bit of burden off. So, well, I'm hoping, and I'm a big picture thinker. So on the way home from school, I thought maybe this will grow. Maybe we can do little plants of swim lessons all throughout the United States.
Yeah. No, that's
Sign us up.
yeah, sign us up. That's how that's why we decided to record our first episode anyway, It's the little things that we hope, and we've had just the experience of talking with people like you, with other parents of special needs kids, with caregivers. And I know Joni mentioned that he works closely with their educational team, and he does. Like we just had one of the kiddos' birthday parties, and his team from school came to the birthday party.
That's
Like those are the
wonderful.
those are the kind of things that they do, and I thought it was amazing because this is something so like insignificant, but I thought about it when it happened at the party. Things like Christmas and birthdays and where there's like gift giving, Avery doesn't care. You know, like he's not going to get excited over the newest toy that's out there or even pay attention to what's going on. But when the teachers showed up, the kiddo has like two or three things that he absolutely loves. And those, that team knows him really well. So it's not like we're all bringing presents because that's what you do at birthday parties. Like, we know going into it, okay, well, he's probably not going to play with a million different toys, and he's going to have preference for these one or two things. And as parents, you didn't have to tell them like, oh, don't do this or don't bring that. Like, even and that could be true for all kids, not just kids with special needs, but it was really special for this kid in particular. And I thought, how awesome is it that you're celebrating something and the teachers and the therapists that are involved when they're able, like it's not an expectation that they show up for things.
No, yeah.
But it's an opportunity for them to, let their hair down and be around the kid in an environment where they're not working, and they can relax, and they don't have to be on. They can just be. And it was such a good opportunity, I think, for me to see them outside of, their like working environment, and to see how they showed up, and like, what they showed up with was, like I said, it's insignificant.
Including a Harley.
Including a Harley, yes. But I mean, I just thought like the gift giving thing is such an insignificant piece, but it matters, in the context of our kids, and, not getting feelings hurt over whether they open the toy and play with it or just held onto the box or, whatever. But to see the teachers show up, and even if it was just to stop by and say hi, and to see the kids, like that kind of thing. But like I said, it's not the expectation. Teachers have far enough expectations already. But I mean but offering that, and then seeing the interaction, and then like really working on building that community outside of just the home environment or the school environment. It's neat to see those kind of integrated.
Absolutely. Yes. And I think that's just a small way to show any student that you care about them. And
Yeah.
like y'all said, just knowing the things that are their preferences is so important. Not getting torn up over little stuff. We talk about that a lot at work. Like, it's not personal.
Yeah.
Our students don't take it personally. It's okay. They're just having a moment.
And for the other kids and parents, like it's also nice to humanize everyone in the environment, right? Like a lot of
Yes.
times we get in our heads like, oh, this person's a teacher, that's their role, that's who they are. No, like they're a whole human with other needs and desires and thoughts and that kind
He
of
makes
thing.
mistakes. I think that by doing that, like you said, humanize, and you realize that the teacher is going to make mistakes, but you can talk to him about it. Like, it's
Yes.
going to be okay. That's one of the biggest things I think for a successful, especially special ed teacher, is building a relationship with those families, because y'all know how vast special education law is. Like, complying with it, it varies from state to state. It is so difficult. And so I think that building those relationships, working together, you're both going to be winners. And that's what it's all about. Being able to have tough conversations and not take it personally.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and learn how to support each other. I mean, like I was saying earlier, that we have those frequent touch points with the teachers and the therapists at the schools. Like, okay, what do you need? Not necessarily to support our kids, but what do you need? That we can
Yes.
help with.
Yeah.
So that
That's incredibly valuable to teachers too, because they're doing such hard jobs. I mean, both ends, both people on this team are doing very difficult jobs, and recognizing
Yeah.
that is important for each other. Like y'all aren't,
Yeah.
we're on the same team. We're not enemies. We're not against each other. It sounds like y'all have a great relationship at your schools, though.
Yeah, I will say it takes a lot of effort. And conscious effort. But yeah, it's fantastic. One in particular watches the kids. You've met her. They came to the conference for the rare genetic disease that all of our kids have in Avery, and hung out with them for what it was, 3 days. So yeah. They're all awesome people, and
They're in it for the right reason. They're in it
Yes.
to
yeah.
better our lives, and that's what it's really all about.
Yeah. Well, what if we not asked you? As far as what you're passionate about and what you're working towards, what are we not asking you that you're hoping we will?
Well, one thing I did want to talk a little bit about is early intervention.
Yes.
I'm not working in early intervention anymore, but it's still something that I care really deeply about and think that it can change a student's path, a child's path. And so I just want to bring awareness to that and how important it is. And like you all were talking about, those conversations with the doctor, they're only seeing your child periodically. And so it's just so vital for you to advocate for your child and get those early intervention services. Did you all, I know that Avery, he participated in early intervention. Did y'all
Yes.
take your children?
Yeah, so we were out in California for most of the kids, and there was a it's called ICEC. I can't remember what it stands for. Something or other. I can't remember what it stands for. But it's a program for kids up till age 3, maybe 4. And it's a half day, and there's all sorts of therapists there and group activities there. And then when we came out here, yes, our youngest was still young enough to qualify for the ELE or early learning environment here through the public system that now Amy just started in like 3 days ago, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Avery did some early intervention. He was 3 when he started going to school.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, like it's just, a couple hours a day. And there for a while, he was worn out. It's a lot. It's really hard work to be in a structured environment and to, be pushed to think through things that are, that don't come easily. But now the early intervention program that you're talking about, like 0 to 3, he actually never was seen.
Oh.
And that's
Oh, really?
that
0 to 2?
yes, 0 to 2.
Like true early intervention.
Because they were so overwhelmed. I would call and follow up, and and that's one of the things that you do, like with DCS. It is one of the things that you have to take care of when you have a child that age. And I was like, I can't get in touch with anybody. There's not enough resources to go around. So it was a matter of like just trying to explore other avenues at that point, which we had enough, medically going on that it wasn't a point of contention.
Right.
But
Right.
but I do think it's important. Like when he started going to school, I have watched this kid blossom, like just from the time that I've had him and his ability to function every day. Like just, basic, functioning and reasoning and doing things. And then when he started school, he's just thrived. He's absolutely thrived. And some people don't understand that that's a resource that's available, or they're hesitant. I was super hesitant to send him because he doesn't talk. So I was like, what if something happens, or he can't tell me about his day, or, but that's where that communication piece comes in too. And his team at his previous school, we're still getting in the hang of things here at the new place, but at his previous school was fantastic about communicating and fantastic about, meeting me where I was and how I had time to participate and be available. And then, with each other. Like I would say that the school system to some degree is far, far more organized than even the medical teams. Because when I go into doctor's appointments, I have to give sometimes therapy appointments at the same clinic. I have to give his entire background every time I go in. No one is communicating, and it's there in his chart anyway, but when you do however many appointments we were doing, at one point we had like, I don't know, 12 to 16 therapy appointments a week or so. And, if you don't meet with the same therapist, it's like, okay, I'm going to spend the first 30 minutes going through his history. And I've not had to do that in the school system. Like, they sit down, they communicate, everyone works together, the emails and stuff going back and forth. It's visible to everyone that's involved. Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, the difference in the weight that I carry in that situation changes. And I think that's a carryover lesson, like, to the medical field and to the therapy teams that are working with the kids outside of school. And that's true for any child, for any parent, for any child, like, whether you're in whatever setting you're in, when people are communicating, you're only helping each other. You're only helping the community as a whole.
Well, and I think sometimes people have to realize, like, we're not out to get you. Like, no one's out, like parents aren't out to get you. They just want what's best for their child. And the school system's not out to get the parents. But I think that there's been, like, some kind of disconnect in the past that's caused that rift. I don't know, just awkwardness. But by building those relationships, it makes all the difference. Like, it sounds like you were super comfortable to go in and talk with them and just be open, and that's what it's all about.
Yes.
I think the biggest thing, going back to early intervention, is just awareness. Like, I think a lot of parents don't know about early intervention or the developmental preschool, either one. And so they'll enroll their child in kindergarten when they could have gotten all these services ahead of time.
Yes.
I don't know if y'all see that there. It's just something I've noticed here specifically. And when I worked in Alabama for a little while, and when I was there, I noticed it as well.
Yeah. No, I think that's critical. And, honestly, when we're looking for places for the kids to go, when we work at finding a daycare or someone to help with the kids, like, Avery at one point had a nanny, and then he went to a very small daycare and then transitioned from there to school. But even just finding care, like, to some degree, that's respite. When you have your child all the time, it's respite for the parent. Just like in my case, I work from home. So for me, that meant I can just work and know that he's learning, he's getting his needs met, and he's safe, and having that 2 or 3 hours a day makes a world of difference in me being a productive employee, for one. And, two, it's just like, sometimes I could even go to the gym, or I can run errands and do, like, little things that I wouldn't have the opportunity to do. So,
I was going to say your
yes,
mental health, like, it just helps your mental health. You're not trying to be two people at one time.
exactly. And it's absolutely critical for the kids too. So, for him, that gave him the opportunity to get in a setting that I know he's going to struggle with early. And like you said at the beginning, he doesn't need to go to school 8 hours a day at 3 years old. A couple hours a day is fine. And I know that could even be different, from child to child, whether they can tolerate 3 hours or 6 hours. When they move up to the next level, it goes, from 3 to probably a 6 before they hit 8. But, it makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think we just need to be willing to look at what the child needs and what they and then grow with them. And it's okay. Like, maybe he needs to come 3 hours a day for 6 weeks, and then we can jump. I mean, that's the beauty of an IEP, is that, there's not a timeline. Like, you can meet as many times as you want to. And I've met before on students. I've met every 2 weeks to change plans and help them grow. And we've just got to do what they need.
Yeah.
Not what's convenient.
Yes, agreed. Well, I want to be mindful of your time. I know you've got kids home and probably have dinner and all the things to do. How about we close out with a struggle, strive, and thrive? You want to go first?
I went first last time.
I always make him go first because I'm never prepared. Bethany, do you have something in mind?
A little bit about something, and it can just be anything in my life right now, right?
Yes.
Okay. struggle right now. My job is a little stressful. It's the end of the year, so we're wrapping up some things. We're, getting ready for state testing, which is a stressor. So that would probably be my struggle right now. But it's okay. We're going to make it through.
Yeah.
My strive. I'm really proud of the swimming thing right now. My Special Olympics team is going to regionals this weekend. It's right outside of Nashville, so I'm excited about that. And then I'm super pumped about the swim lessons because I hadn't gotten a response in a long time, and they finally responded, and so I think that's a big win. And then thrive. So what am I how am I thriving?
Yeah.
Like my last one. Ooh, I ran a half marathon this weekend unprepared. Can that be it?
Wait.
One of my very best friends was registered, so excited to run. And she broke her foot. And so I ran in her place. So I feel like I'm thriving because I did not expect to be able to finish that race. I was fully prepared to quit at mile 6.
That's when you finally get into it, I think. Somewhere between mile 4 and 6, you're either done or you're like, okay, I got this.
Right. Mile 9 and 10, I just barely made, but that's okay.
Yes, it is. Those are good. You want to?
Sure. I mean, for me, I think the struggle is we've been trying to get back into a routine, with 5 kids for doctor's appointments, dentist appointments, all those. We've been focusing, excuse me, on the specialist visits and appointments. I'll say we've been in survival mode, focusing on the specialist appointments for a couple of years, at least at this point. So, and I guess this will be a struggle and a success at the same time. So we finally, as of Monday, we had the boys last week and the girls Monday. All 5 have now been to a new general pediatrician and gotten all that stuff going. And now we have some vision follow-ups and some other follow-ups that came out of that. Tomorrow morning, the struggle will be all 5 kids are going to the dentist at the same time for checkups and
That's
x-rays and
brave.
cleanings.
Yes.
So if you don't see me after tomorrow morning, you'll know why. Send help. In terms of a strive or success, I think. I think for this community and us in particular, we've struggled and had challenges with a regular cadence of meeting and being able to discuss ideas, share ideas, collaborate, record these sorts of conversations. I think in the last, 2 weeks, we're kind of reestablishing that rhythm and that pace. And, I think that's a huge win, not just for us, but, the community we're trying to build too. So I'm going to take that one as a win.
Yeah, that's huge.
How about you?
My struggle this week is Avery did receive a confirmed diagnosis for the Chiari malformation, and it is much more concerning at this point than we thought it would be. Or I don't even know if I had an idea of what it could be. So maybe that's part of the struggle is just I'm sitting in that unknowing space right now, and that's very uncomfortable for me because I'm kind of like, okay, I've already done the research, I know, now we wait. And being, scared of surgical procedures, and which, for those who don't know, a Chiari malformation is in the brain, so the brain stem protrudes down closer to the spinal cord. So it's not that rare, I'll say, but it can cause a lot of complications and exacerbate things. In his case, it exacerbates things that he already has going on, like swallowing. He's regressed and is not eating any solid foods now. So that's my struggle. My strive is want to make this conversation so much bigger. And I want to be smarter and more well versed in the resources and talking to people. And I want people or our listeners to feel like they can come to us and ask questions and we can be a resource for people. This is 1 hour of our time that I hope makes a tremendous impact or splash, if you will, in your community, in our community, in other communities, like just people getting ideas from us. I know we had another conversation this week, and that person is, not even here in the States. So when they watch this episode, like, it's, I don't want to get teary, so I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, And then my thrive is just, us prioritizing this time together. And, Avery's and Lily's relationship is really to thank for us being here doing this, but even just having the courage to have the conversation on my part, Johnny's part, your part, I think that's a big success.
I feel very honored that y'all even had me on here because I am not all knowing in the least. And I just am very excited that y'all have started these conversations and that I get to be a little piece in it. So thank you so much.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you. You have the most beautiful heart, and
Well, that means a lot. Thank you.
and we're extremely grateful that you wanted to have this conversation, and I'm so inspired by the work that you do and the work that you're doing.
Well,
And you're raising kids, and you're a professional, and you're a CrossFit athlete of the month or member of the month. So if you haven't given yourself a hug or a pat on the back lately, you should.
That
It's
means
really
a lot.
inspiring.
Thank you. Thank y'all so much. And just thank y'all for continuing this. If I can ever help in any way, tell me, and I'm happy to.
Of course. Thank you. And Avery's hungry, so we're going to sign off and find dinner. Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys. Y'all have a wonderful night, okay? It was great to talk to you in real life, Johnny.
Too. Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.